Hey everybody, my name is Chauncey, and welcome to the first episode of Accidental Isolation, the podcast, where I like to bring on the guests to speak about a moment in their life where they may have been stuck in the accidental isolation. This podcast is to give listeners an opportunity to realize how common it is for someone to be stuck in accidental isolation. Today we have two-time All-American, Westchester University grad, former teammate and friend, starting safety for the New Orleans Breakers, Jarey Elder.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
How you doing, man? I just like to thank Jarey for giving me a little bit of his time today and come on my podcast. Not only is he a guest on the podcast, he is the first guest on Accidental Isolation, the podcast. So Jarey, man, let's just get started and get the listeners knowing a little bit about you. Go ahead, give them a little small backstory about where you're from, how you grew up a little bit.
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's an awesome thing that you're doing. I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm originally from Plainfield, New Jersey, smaller town called the Queen City in New Jersey, North Jersey. There's a lot of people out there that's going to complain about Jersey as north, south, central. We're like between north and central because there is a little bit of a central Jersey. But yeah, originally from there, moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania when I was about 8 years old and grew up out there. It's a great spot. There's a lot of athletes that come out of Allentown. I couldn't really tell you what Allentown is known for. It's weird. It's not really great in basketball or football or super great in sports, but there's a lot of great athletes and good programs all over. I'm the youngest of four brothers. My parents raised all of us. Grew up in a tight household where, like any other family, you have your beefs and your fun times. And just a great having three older brothers to learn from and pick their brain, and a father and grandparents around me and my mother to raise me into the man I am today. So
Jarey, you already know what the meaning of accidental isolation is. So why don't you give the listeners an example of what that looked like for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like Chauncey said, we're former teammates, and my story is a little bit similar to his, but obviously have our differences. My journey to get into the Usfl and doing what I'm doing now is a lot different than some people out there. Coming out of school, there was NFL teams that were talking to me, coming to see me. A couple of CFL teams that came to see me, but after the draft happened, it didn't necessarily go the way that I wanted to. So I took a chance to go out and play in Italy. So, I mean, that's kind of a thing there. I don't really look Italian, as the viewers can see. As you can see, I don't really look Italian. So I'm over there in a whole nother country without my son or my girlfriend and without anybody in my family, any of my family members, because it's actually during COVID. So the only way I was able to go out there, I had to get a work visa. So that was the only reason I was actually able to go out to Italy and play football. So yeah, I was over there, and my teammates were great, like super supportive. They would drive me places, pick me up for practice and everything like that. The whole staff, everyone around me. Like, I never had a problem with anyone. It's a great place to be in Milan, Italy. But I don't speak Italian. I don't look Italian. So there was times that I kind of just felt alone, especially my son was only 8-9 months at the time, and me and my girlfriend had been together at the time for 7 years. So spending so much time together and having my first child, I was missing home a little bit, and I felt isolated. I was just kind of staying up till like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, sometimes 6 in the morning, watching the sun come up, hanging out all night, just playing video games and stuff, just doing stuff that was kind of like out of my character.
Yeah. So I mean, you told us you was in Italy and whatnot. Explain to us a little bit how much of a burden that language barrier was, how that affected you and your teammates. Anytime you were able to, go out and explore, just tell us about the language barrier and how that affected you.
Yeah, I mean, it would pop up on different occasions. One time I had to send a package home, actually, so I had to go to like the postal office out there, and no one in the postal office spoke English except for there was another American that happened to be walking in after I already been there for about 30, 40 minutes. So it was different tough times like that, ordering food and them kind of trying to figure it out, like what I was trying to say. But for the most part, actually, a lot of people speak English. Like they're nervous about their English because they feel like it's broken English. But what I would always tell them is, your English is 10 times better than my Italian, because I didn't know any Italian going out there. So it's definitely a barrier, but I would say that they helped out a lot with just being honest with me, and like they would teach me like a word, and then I was able to piece words together and kind of hop into conversations. But I never got to the point where I could fully hold a conversation in Italian. But at some point while I was there, I would understand just bits and pieces of what people were talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know that's tough. I lived in some other country while I was really young, so I didn't have to really worry about that. And I always lived on a military base, so I also didn't have to worry about the language barrier for the most part. But back to you, man. You were over there. One, you're playing football. most athletes know, playing a sport, professional sport, that does take a toll on your mental and your physical. But you also in a foreign country, and you, like you said, you had a semi-newborn, and you were away from him very early. How did that, being away from your kid and away from your son, how did that affect you on top of already going through the everyday stresses of being a professional athlete?
Yeah, so I kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, and I was saying that I was staying up late, and you don't really think about it too much, like, oh, you're just staying up late, it's not a big deal. But when you're staying up late and then you're expected to perform at practice and games and everything, it does take a toll. And I was staying up late. I also was like drinking a little bit more than I normally would, and it was just kind of taking a toll on me mentally. I wouldn't say that like I wasn't necessarily as happy as I was to the outside world, but mentally, I definitely wasn't as happy, like the happy, smiley guy that I typically am on an everyday basis. And we practice at like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So to go through the whole day where I'm laying around sleeping because I was just up till 5 in the morning, and then to get ready for a practice, it was tough. You know what I mean? It was tough for me to get the job done.
So, I mean, you mentioned in there that you're usually happy-go-lucky. You might not have the biggest smile every day, all day, but you mentioned that you're usually present a happy person. So when you were going through these shows and stuff, did your teammates, I know they didn't know you very well, or did your teammates, or maybe over the phone, because I know when I call my mom and something's wrong, she tells me before I even get a chance to get a word out. So like when you were speaking back with your family and friends back home, or maybe your teammates or your coaches or anything, did they like hear it? Did they feel it? Did they sense something was wrong?
I think that's one thing that I'm good at that I don't think is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm really good at like compressing my emotions or seeing how I feel, which I feel like a lot of males, especially black males, have a problem doing, showing emotion. And I kind of never really let someone know what's truly going on. I'll crack a joke. I'm real quick to crack a joke to deter what's going on and try to just show something different.
Yeah.
If I can get a smile out of somebody, that'll make me feel better, and it make me feel like I accomplished something, so I don't necessarily have to talk about what I'm going through. But when I do go through things, like I'm the people that I do talk to, I talk to. So like my parents, I would talk to them and just kind of just say like, man, it sucks being away. My brothers, I talk to all of them, like let them know it sucks being away. One thing that I was holding on to before I even left Italy to come back home to take the opportunity I took, the staff out there was talking about flying my girlfriend and son out to spend some time out. So that was kind of like light at the end of the tunnel that I was getting ready for, and then I ended up coming home before the end of the season, before we even got to the end of the season.
Yeah, just having something that you're comfortable with, me being your family, your son and your girlfriend coming out and just give you that little sense of home while you're so far away. I know it can be tough. I think a lot of males deal with that. A lot of athletes, a lot of males in any field deal with that and just masking. And that's one reason this podcast is here. Like, I don't want to be able to tell people what they should do and how they should get out of their isolation. But what I want to do is I want to let people have their toolbox, and I want to have people on the podcast to give people as many tools as they can. Because you can use one tool for 10 jobs, and you can use 10 tools for one job. I just want people to know that they have as many tools as they can to use however they want, and they have to figure it out on your own. So looking back at it, most of the time people don't necessarily realize that they're going through an accidental isolation while they're going through it. So when did you kind of realize, you said this was maybe about a year and a half ago, when did you kind of realize after that, looking back at it, that this is what you went through?
Yeah, I say, so I had got the call to come out to the Spring League to come play with you guys when we all met down in Houston. And when I got the call to come home, it was like after a game, we just won our second game of the season out in Italy, and they called me to the Spring League guy, the head coach, Ted Cottrell. He calls me and tells me he drafted me in the Spring League. So I'm like, whoa, like what? And then like right away, I started crying because I got a chance to come home and see my family and stuff. I was only home 4 days before I had to leave to go to Houston, but I still got that little bit of time, you know? And it was like, instead of being 6-hour time difference away from them, I'm 1 hour time difference. So it was like, all right. And I broke down crying on the phone with my parents. They're like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? And it was just like, the joy, the excitement to know that I'd be coming home just to see my family. And that's when I kind of noticed, like, maybe this was taking more of a toll on me than I actually thought it was. You know what I mean?
So you notice it kind of recent more than, like I said, people realize this, as soon as it's over. Some people realize it years later. But you kind of noticed it quick. Once you saw the light at the end of the tunnel, which was coming home, you realized like, oh man, the decision I made to come out to Italy took a deeper toll than I expected.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't want it to be like being in Italy was like a negative thing, because it wasn't a negative thing. I think it's a great experience, but just for me, it was a lot to handle at the time.
So you were going through this isolation, and then you were able to come to Houston, and that kind of when it ended a little bit there because you were time difference. It was a lot closer. They could travel a little bit easier. So once you realize that this is what you went through, looking back at it now, what do you think you've learned from this isolation?
I think I learned I have to stop masking my emotions. You know what I mean? I need to be able to talk to people, and there's so many people around me that I genuinely do trust that I need to let them in a little bit more. Like, I don't have to give them every piece about me. I can still keep things tucked away. It'd be better if I can give everything out, but just for my personal, I like to keep a little bit more things tucked away. So I would say just the ability to talk to the people that I trust and give them a part of me, because if I would have been talking through it while I was there, I feel like it would have made a huge difference for me, because I'm around a bunch of people that I just met that don't necessarily speak the same language as me fluently. So it's just been beneficial to call home, like, hey man, or hey mom, hey Courtney, and just let them know, like, I'm struggling today. Like, today's a tough day. I think something that I struggle with is just, I don't want to put my burdens on the other people. But when you have strong people around you, they're able to take your burdens, put them on their shoulder, and carry you through the same way that they might bring their burdens to you one day, and you have to carry them through their burdens. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
Everybody has a shoulder that you can lean on, and you also in turn are that same shoulder for them. So just use the shoulders that's around you.
Exactly. And I mean, just to that point, like, something I had to realize, and a lot of people have told me about, if you're worried about throwing this weight on somebody's shoulder, especially someone who wants that weight, who wants to support you, imagine this. Imagine you're giving it to them, like you said, while you're in Italy. Imagine you're giving them just a little pebble this week, a little pebble this week. That's a lot less weight, right, than throwing it all at once after the whole 4-month, 5-month process is over. Now you're throwing a boulder on their shoulder. So if you're really worried about it, that maybe that can help, ease the relief that you're not putting so much weight on somebody. And maybe it'll help realize that, hey, this person wants to listen, this person is here, and, I can go from there and I can speak with them. So, Jarey, you talked about putting your weight on other people, and, we had a little snippet about speaking about how, you can ease that stress from you because people want to be there for you. So do you have any other tools for the viewers and the listeners out there that may help them get out of this situation or their isolation?
Yeah, for sure. Like, so I'm sure there's other people like that have been in my situation. We had someone working with us in Houston that was a graduate student that was from, I forget what foreign country she was from, so I'm sure she dealt with it too, trying to learn the English language as well. I would say try to indulge in the culture. I feel like if I would have genuinely poured all of myself into the Italian culture and try to learn all their ways instead of trying to be a little bit more reserved the way I was, I feel like it would have been a smoother transition for me. If I would have just tried to pick up on one thing, or before I even got there, learned a little bit of Italian and indulge in Italian culture, it'd have been more beneficial for me. So I think that'd be one tool it's okay to get out of your comfort zone. Like, if there's something that you're struggling with, allow yourself to go through the struggle and see what comes out on the end. Because the struggle is like working out. You struggle to put the weight up, next thing you know, your muscles are bigger and they're stronger. So allow your muscles, allow your personality, allow your transition to get stronger and become the better man or woman that you become at the end.
Yeah, man, especially as athletes, because every day we go in the weight room, maybe not during the season, but off season when we're trying to get stronger, that's exactly what we do. We struggle. And struggling is not necessarily looked down upon. I think as we go through life, you said it perfectly. Allow yourself to struggle. Allow yourself to witness failure so you know how it feels and you can learn from it. So I really like that analogy, especially, you being an athlete. But for anybody in the world, it's best to realize that, yes, struggling happens. No one's perfect. No one lived a perfect life. You can ask anybody, that you see as successful, and you can ask them, I'm sure they'll tell you that they struggle. So that's a great analogy that you use. So, man, while you were in Italy, I know it was a little hard because, going through the language barrier, but, you're a tough guy. I know you can get through things. What were the activities that maybe you and your teammates indulged in while you were over there?
So our quarterback, he's actually from New York.
Okay.
But he had a dual citizenship because his grandparents are from Italy.
Okay.
And his fiance now, they just got engaged a couple months ago. She loved to cook, and she's 100% Italian from Italy. So we would get together, have dinners at their apartment and stuff, and being able to just kind of talk, hang out, relax, go sightseeing out there. I had teammates because they live there, they're from there, they live in Milan. So they would text me places to go check out for the day. And I would hop on a bike, I would rent a bike for the day, or I'd get on a scooter, or I'd just walk and just see the different things there were to see around Milan. There's a lot of history in the buildings and the architecture, and there's a lot of cool stuff to see when you're there. My first day there, the quarterback took me around the Duomo area, and just being able to see the castle and stuff out there, it's a real cool experience. Another thing that I would do actually, so there's being a pro athlete, a pro football player. Football isn't huge in Europe. So these football players that are in Italy, they kind of look at you, not to say superhero, lack of better words, like a superhero. So I had younger guys hit me up, hey, can we work out together? Can you show me a couple new tools to add? So I was like training this one guy. I was training this one kid. He's about 18 years old, only been playing football for a couple years, and he didn't speak much English. But he understood, I could show him and talk through football about how to get better, and he understood that. So there were certain times where I'm trying to tell him something, and I could just show him, and he would get it right away. He's a real smart kid. He would understand it, and he would teach me like an Italian word a day, or just like a phrase or a place and how to say it. So that was like a real cool experience. That's something I enjoyed a lot because he was a football player, and he also rode motorbikes. He did motocross.
Okay.
So I would ask him stuff about motocross, and he helped me out a lot. It was cool.
And I bet that helped a lot, just being able to, like you said, you want to indulge in the community and be more involved, and that probably would have helped you a little bit more. But I think you did that, maybe not to the extent you wanted to, but I bet training a kid that doesn't speak much English and you not speaking much Italian, and what helped you through that language barrier was an activity, and that activity was football. So I know that probably made you feel a lot better about yourselves. You're able to help someone. And then it's like a win-win. You get to learn a little bit of Italian, even about a little bit about motocross, and you're doing a good gesture, a good favor for that young man. So all right, so man, you was in Italy, right? I know the cuisine was immaculate. Tell me about maybe like your favorite meal, your favorite restaurant, your favorite. Something about food. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so like I said, my Italian is horrible. I don't speak it much. And then being home and not practicing, I kind of lost all of it. I can only say a couple bad words, so I'm not going to say that. But all the food over there is great. And I feel like every place I went to, the food was just really, really good. The one day, because my girlfriend and son, they were able to come out there. I ended up going back to Italy for about 10 days later on in the summer after our spring league season finished up. I got a chance to go back over there, and me, Courtney, and Jace, we were going out to eat and everything, and we found this one restaurant. She wanted some seafood pasta. It came with like some mussels, some shrimp. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. But growing up, my favorite food was pizza.
Okay.
And being from the Northeast, you can find good pizza in a lot of places. So I just like pizza. I love it. And being over there in Italy, I'm like, I want pizza, and the pizza is different.
Okay, yeah.
It's more of like, I guess it kind of like, it goes along with the oven bake style, like the fast oven bake brick oven kind of pizza. It goes along with that, but it's just better.
Okay,
it's 10 times better, and it's cheap. You get a pie for $5. And pizza, you can't go wrong with that. So I was still a pizza fan, so I was still loving the pizza while I was over there.
Is the pizza, is it thick? Is it kind of thin? Is it more saucy, more cheesy?
It kind of depends on the pie you eat.
Okay.
We got this one pie. It had like salami and all kinds of stuff in it, and around the crust. Though. It wasn't on top of the pizza. It was around salami and cheese. Yeah, it was cooked in the crust. So that was cool. But it's more on the thinner side. You don't really get like a true like thick Sicilian pies the way they kind of say it up by where I live in Pennsylvania. It was more on the thinner side, but it was really, really good.
Okay. So I want to talk about, you just mentioned how you went back to Italy after the spring league. Okay. The second time you spoke about how it wasn't the same. Explain to us how it wasn't the same and it wasn't like the first time when you were in accidental isolation.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a family man. Like I said earlier in the show, being able to bring my family with me, my girlfriend and my son, over to Italy was a super cool experience, because me and my girlfriend like the vacation. We try to take at least one vacation a year. It's been tougher the past couple of years with having our 2-year-old now. It's been pretty tough, and then with me in football and going this place to this place and changing. But to be able to take them over to Italy and indulge in the culture, we were there for 10 days. that was a super cool experience. Like, not many 1.5-year-olds, was only one at the time, get to say that they were in Italy for 10 days. You know what I mean? We had our nicer, like, little apartment that the team had got us over there, and we were able to just go around and show Courtney and Jace the different museums and with like the
because that was at the Cove,
parks.
right?
Yeah, we were able to go over there. So it was a cool experience to be able to bring them in to a culture that I felt like I started becoming a part of slowly, but also show them like this is another side of life that we need to do this more often, and we're going to be a family that vacations, because I didn't necessarily have those vacations as a kid growing up. I didn't start taking real vacations until I was 16, 17 years old. So to be able to be 22, 23 years old and taking my family on vacation is an extremely important thing to me, and I thought it was pretty cool to be able to do it.
So do you feel like not vacationing or not maybe seeing as much as you can now that you're an adult as a kid has any effect on maybe how you felt when you went to Italy the first time?
I think so, for sure, because I wasn't necessarily around different cultures. Like, obviously for people listening on the radio or compared to the camera, I'm a black man, you know. So growing up in the city that I'm from in Jersey, you're not really around anybody beside black people. Like, there's a lot of black and Hispanic community. And then when I moved to Pennsylvania, I moved into a super suburban area, so I was around mostly white people. And not taking vacations, you don't get to see all the different cultures from the different countries. Like, being able to go out the country, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Italy, I was over in Belgium, I've been to where else? Dominican Republic. Being able to see, been to Aruba, been to Antigua. Being able to see the cultures and the people in their own society is way better than being able to see the different cultures and people in the Americanized society. Because they're trying to conform to our norms, and we get to go over there and see them in their norm and see them extremely comfortable. So I feel like vacation is the best thing that you can do for a small child. What I'll try to do now with my son and my daughter on the way, I would love to take them out of the country at least twice a year, just so they can see different cultures and see different things and be open-minded to a different lifestyle than the one that we're able to provide for them here.
Yeah, I definitely think that's huge, because it'll be easier for you to see community and, you know, have a bigger foundation or home base while you're there. You'll have more people around you to support you and stuff like that, just because you would be more comfortable with being around different ethnicities and stuff like that. So, man, when you went back to Italy, you said your son was only, how old again?
About a year and a half.
Okay, year and a half. So in that time he was born, were you playing football up until, you know, he got to Italy with you?
No, I actually was kind of in a stall process. I was just home working and trying to figure out the next move.
Yeah, so go ahead and explain the experience you felt of being able to have your girlfriend and your son over, one already in Italy, so they're on vacation, having the time of their life. But you were there on a business trip as well. So go ahead and explain a little bit how that made you feel, having your son, you know, see his dad play his first game and being able to see it overseas and all that.
Yeah, so they invited me back out to play in the championship game because the other American they brought in for me after I left, he had ended up getting banged up and wasn't able to play. So they asked me to come back, and I obviously took the opportunity to go play there and bring my family with me. And kind of one thing I always said, I always wanted my kids and son at the time, the only son, but I always wanted my kids to see me do what I do. Like, I always wanted to not necessarily have them share the love for the game the way I do, but just to see me and how much I love the game and see me enjoy doing what I do. And that was the first time my son got to see me play. And of course he's young, so he might not really remember, but I have pictures and videos of him cheering dad in the stand and stuff that I can show him as he gets older, and I can also go back and look. And that was one of the coolest experiences I think I've ever had in my life, just seeing my son having fun at a football game, and I'm out there playing, performing, and he's enjoying himself. And obviously I love football, so I'm out there enjoying myself. That's a super cool experience.
No, that's something he'll be able to just, like you said, go back and when he's 18, and he'll be able to see, like, hey, I was in Italy, not only just vacation, I was watching my dad do what he loved, and you know, and he'll be able to see even more of you play. Real quick, you mentioned that the one American, this is a little off topic, but you mentioned that the one American that was over there was injured, so they asked you to come back. Can you explain a little bit how the process is about playing overseas and why he couldn't still be there and you get an invite? Or could you explain the process about the nationalities and how they can play overseas?
Yeah, so the Italian Football League, they have different rules than all the other football leagues. Not a lot of people know, but there's football leagues in a lot of countries.
Okay, yeah.
Italian is one of the better ones. That's kind of what led to me going over there. But you're only allowed 2 Americans on the field at the same time.
Okay.
And you can't have more than 2 Americans on the field. And then you're only allowed, I believe, 2 to 3 Americans on the roster. And then you can pick up guys from other countries in Europe, but you're only allowed so many of those. I believe it's like 1 or 2 from other countries in Europe. So originally we had a guy from France. He ended up getting hurt. He ended up getting released from the team, and we brought in an old lineman from Serbia.
Okay.
So you're only allowed a certain amount. So they try to keep it the same way the Canadian Football League tries to keep it for Canada.
Yeah.
Is the same way the Italian League tries to keep it for Italians.
Sorry.
So they get a chance to play the game that they love as well, without the Americans coming over there and, you know, playing all the snaps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. So, man, I'd like to not only thank you for being a guest on my podcast, but I'd like to thank you for being the very first guest on the Accidental Isolation, the podcast. So if you guys like Jarey's journey and you like to follow him more on his journey as his career goes and, you know, his fatherhood grows, feel free to follow him on social media. I'll go ahead and let him drop that in here right now.
Oh, yeah, both on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Jarey Elder 21. That's Jarey Elder, ELDER 21 on Twitter and Instagram. You guys could go ahead and follow.
All right, man, we're going to give him Jarey a round of applause.